In one night, there have been 3 attacks by the Joker in Gotham City. 4, actually, now that the GCPD has found the body of Judge Wells. The separate investigations of Batman, Batgirl, and the Red Hood have brought them together on this ominous night. For these 3, it isn't simply important to stop the Joker because he's an evil murderer. It is important to stop him because they have all been drastically hurt by him. Given that the Joker is clearly working with accomplices, they have chosen to ally together. Their investigation led them to an aquarium where they encountered and subdued the Joker. Or rather, a Joker. Unbeknownst to the Bat folks, it was revealed to the audience that 3 Jokers appear to be working together on this latest scheme. Whatever that scheme is. There is the comedian who shot and paralyzed Barbara Gordon for a time. The criminal who hasn't smiled yet and appears to be the leader of the group. And there is the clown who was being held at the aquarium until transport to Arkham could arrive. At least, that was the plan. The clown began to taunt the Red Hood, whose real name is Jason Todd, with the fact that he nearly killed him. Even worse, he taunted him with the idea that he left him alive in order to torture Batman. Jason had truly become the Joker's own Robin, and so Jason shot him in the head. Batgirl has linked back up with Batman, who left the aquarium to investigate another Joker sighting. Clues left at the crime scene now drive them to Blackgate Penitentiary. Batman is going to need to visit the man who changed his life, the petty thief known as Joe Chill, the man who killed his parents. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown, episode 15.3, Batman 3 Jokers. Things happen in threes. We're staring down a long, dark hallway lined with prison cells. There is no dialogue, no one says anything. But as Batman's shadow passes over each cell, the prisoners pull their limbs back inside or retreat to the back of their room. Among them are names like Rupert Thorne or Alex Sartorius, both of whom have faced Batman before, and know better than to cross him now. Batman stops at Chill's cell, silent and grim. Memories of that night play through his mind. The sound of his mother's voice, the gun being fired, Chill standing in the low light. Batman starts to speak, and he has to clear his throat. He says that Chill knows who he is. They need to talk. There's silence and no movement in the cell, though. Batman pulls up a leg and kicks the no swearing door off its hinges. No swearing. Damn, man. Inside, he discovers that the cell is empty. Pictures are taped to the wall, one of kids, maybe his grandkids. There's a sports car, signs that a person definitely lived there once upon a time. Batgirl appears behind Batman and tells him that they moved Chill. He's sick. Cut to the hospital wing, where Batman and Batgirl stand over Chill's emaciated form. The now elderly Chill lies in bed, oxygen tubes running up to his nose. Batgirl says that he's been here for 2 months with cancer. He has only weeks left to live, maybe. So, she asks, how could his fingerprints end up on a fresh murder weapon? Batman reasons that if they checked the cameras, Chill probably had an unidentified visitor who took his fingerprints, either the Joker or an associate. So they were then planted on the bludgeon to lure Batman here. What's the connection between the Joker and Joe Chill other than you? Batgirl asks. Batman doesn't know. Suddenly he turns. Jason's helmet just accessed the Bat computers and they have his location. Batgirl tries to get Batman to stop for a second, but no. He suggests that Jason has found the other 2 Jokers, distracting her from more emotional concerns. I don't know enough about Batman or Joe Chill to guess as to the mystery connection. I honestly don't. But I do have a pretty good handle on emotions, and I freaking love Batman hesitating at Chill's cell. We open the Blackgate scene with Batman wading through old enemies who still fear him. Like, without even saying anything, they're scared of him. But then he approaches Chill's cell, and the vibe totally flips. Did he clear his throat so that he could put on the Batman voice? Or did fear put a frog in his throat? It's hard to say, but Chill is responsible for the murder of his parents, an act that changed Bruce Wayne's life. It's also interesting to me that this story is about how the Joker's attack affected Jason and Barbara, but we also get to explore how Chill's attack on the Waynes affected Bruce. Again, this is a story ultimately about trauma and how people process it. That's kind of the core of this narrative. Even after all of this time and the badass man that Bruce Wayne has become, he is still unnerved by Chill. We then catch up to the Red Hood, who has driven to a condemned public pool. The gate is locked, so the Hood draws a crowbar like a sword from the cloth hood of his jacket. Please note that a crowbar is what the Joker used to beat Jason before his presumed death, and now he carries one around. This time, Johns is showing us that Jason is literally carrying his trauma around, weaponizing it. Inside the building, Jason draws his pistol and walks carefully. Eventually, he reaches a pool. The edges of it are littered with chemical barrels, and dozens of naked men float in the pool, dead. The Hood kneels and pulls out a test kit from his pockets. He then dips a cotton swab in the water, and it turns green, and then it burns. Yep, Joker toxin. He looks up. He beat Batman here. Hell yeah. Confident that the chemicals have dispersed enough for it to be safe, Jason removes his helmet and puts a finger to his earpiece. He calls for Batgirl, interesting that he doesn't call for Batman, but suddenly a white hand shoots out of the water, grabbing Jason's ankle. The figure uses its grip to pull itself out of the pool, his wet hair thinned and stained green, his eyes turned yellow, and a permanent, painful smile is etched on his face. He looks at Jason. Help me! Jason kicks the man in the face and draws his pistol, but the kick seems to have knocked the last of the man's strength out of him. He floats, face down, in the pool. Another set of hands suddenly grab Jason by the face from behind. We can immediately tell by the clothes that it is one of the Jokers, and he pulls Jason away. After a moment, another Joker, the same Joker, who can tell because he's mostly off-panel, returns to pick up the Red Hood's helmet. We can hear him say, "He'll be perfect." It's unclear how much time passes between that scene and this next one. Eventually, though, Jason wakes up. He's naked, maskless, and sitting in a chair with his hands zip-tied behind him. Sweat, blood, cuts, and scars litter his muscular body. A Joker, the criminal, addresses him, which draws Jason's face up. Jason Todd was a thief, he says, a criminal. He should have been arrested. Instead, the Batman took him in, and he was reborn. Then he died, and was reborn again. But, and here the criminal stands over Jason, things happen in threes, implying that Jason is due. Jason scowls at him. Like you? The criminal says that he was the first. He used to run Gotham before the Bat showed up. This doesn't impress Jason. Any wacko in face paint can claim to be the Joker, and he already killed one of those. Once he's free, he'll do the same to this one. The criminal tries not to laugh, but that's just too funny. He explodes in laughter, but it's only for a panel. He immediately reels it back in. This finally unnerves Jason, if only a little bit. What's wrong with him? Quietly, the criminal composes himself. It hurts when he laughs. Assuming that this is a joke, Jason's bravado returns. Do you really expect him to believe that this guy, the criminal, is the Joker? The criminal spreads his arms. Who is the Joker? That's what they're trying to find out. They found the judge, the serial killer, and the surgeon, but they're all too predictable, boring. But Jason, now there's an interesting idea. The comedian Joker suddenly slides the Red Hood helmet down over Jason's face, but now there's a painted-on grin, bright red lips with towering white teeth. The criminal then asks, why did he take the name Red Hood? And Jason is like, come on, man, again with this? It was a joke. The comedian holds up Jason's crowbar. Then he positions it next to Jason's head, like a golf club teeing up. The criminal says that they nearly killed him, leaving him with brain damage and permanent nerve pain. The only way that Jason doesn't feel pain is when he is inflicting it on others, isn't that right? Maybe, just maybe, they're more similar than Jason wants to admit. The Joker died once before and was reborn, and he hates Batman for it. Just like how Jason hates and blames the Batman for his own death and rebirth. Jason replies that he hates a lot of people, including the Joker, with a sneer. The criminal leans in next to Jason's ears. But you hate him the most. Then he stands. They wanted Jason to be the next Joker. After all, it would be perfect, right? First he's the Red Hood, then he's the Joker. It'd be beautiful. It just makes sense. But they don't think that Jason is smart enough to pull it off. Which is when the comedian hits him upside the head with the crowbar. Jason, in his chair still, falls to the ground, the helmet shattering around his eye. He looks out, glaring at him. They better kill him this time, he threatens. The comedian reels back. Oh no, that's not what's happening here. Hell, he's rooting for Jason. He wants to see him come through this as the new Joker. The crowbar drops again, and the scene ends on a single red panel. God damn.
Still swearing.
This book is intense. I love it. When the first issue ended, I have to admit, I was just a little bit, disappointed. This book really sells itself based upon its title, 3 Jokers, but right quick, one of those Jokers gets killed. And maybe that is a small thing to most, but that really bothered me. Names are important, and calling this book 3 Jokers means that we need 3 Jokers, credit, and they blew it on the first issue! But, here in issue 2, a road forward reveals itself. Maybe this isn't the story of 3 Jokers coexisting, but the creation of a new 3rd Joker. One with a close personal tie to Batman and the rest of the Bat mythos, perhaps. That is an even cooler idea, although it's a bit tricky. What does it take to create a Joker? We've seen that the victims all have the same physical traits that you would expect. The white skin, green hair, a too large smile. But the criminal is more interested in their candidate's motivation than in their physical similarities. He seems to want someone who hates Batman, who can hurt Batman in ways that he has never been hurt before. To that end, Jason is honestly a perfect choice. The Clown Joker pointed it out last issue, but Jason's current line of actions already cause Batman emotional pain. If he became the next Joker, well, think of how much that would hurt Batman. But then they write him off. Or they appear to. The comedian's line would indicate that they aren't quite done with Jason, or rather they haven't pushed him far enough. So when they strip him of his clothes, they're also stripping him of his identities. He isn't the Red Hood now. He isn't even Robin. He is just Jason Todd, a petty thief. When they put the helmet over his head, it is to make him into a Joker and to protect him. They want him hurting, yes, but they don't want him dead. And then they beat the absolute crap out of him, hopefully re-traumatizing him. It is a frustratingly cold and precise attack on exactly who Jason is. On the one hand, it's a pretty impressive move by the Jokers. On the other hand, it is a chilling and terrible move as well. Author Johns says that Jason only feels normal when he is hurting others, and I don't quite know if that's true or not. I haven't read a lot of Red Hood comics, but this isn't a facet of the character that I have ever seen referenced before. A long scroll through Wikipedia doesn't mention this psychological feature either. To be fair, that article could have just missed it. Wikipedia isn't a rock-solid resource, but like I said, I've never heard of this or read this idea before, so I think that it was most likely created by Johns for the sake of this story. He's building another connection between Jason and the Joker, making it seem even more likely that Jason would become one. It could also have been done as a way to explain how ruthless Jason is too. In any case, the idea that Jason suffers when not hurting people is a cruel one indeed, as it further encourages his painful brand of vigilantism. I think it's important to note that the criminal mentions other Joker candidates in his dialogue, specifically the judge, the serial killer, and the surgeon, although I have no idea what that means. My lack of bat knowledge is really hurting me here, and despite my Google foo, I can't find any Jokers that seem connected with those specific titles. I thought that maybe Johns was attempting to explain previous Jokers who maybe were thought killed, or they disappeared, or they appeared only in other forms of media, like maybe this was a way of canonizing a bunch of unconventional Joker concepts. But like I said, I can't find any proof of that. The Joker origins that I read about online were mostly variants on the same basic idea, that the Joker was a hitman or a mob boss or some form of a criminal who was exposed to chemicals, he got turned into the Joker, and then he went insane. So if anyone has a coherent idea on what Johns is referring to here, I would genuinely love to hear it. Please drop me a line. What matters inside of that idea is that the Joker isn't a specific person. It's a role. I'd also like to give Jason some props for finding the location before Batman, again. He didn't really do any detective work here, he just beat some dudes up, but still, you got there, Jason. Nice work. Sucks on the rest of it. Batgirl and Batman arrive soon after, with Batgirl kicking the door in. They're barely inside when a zombie horde's worth of Jokers suddenly swarm them. They fight on as best they can, but there is only so much that the two of them can do against this large press of bodies. Eventually, one of the Jokers manages to pull off Batman's utility belt, and they accidentally depress a button. This button calls the Batmobile, and Batman knows it. He grabs Batgirl and pulls her aside, allowing the car to smash through the wall and into the mob. Most of them seem to die in the attack, as things then get quiet quickly. Batgirl starts to scan the bodies, afraid that one of them is Jason. But he isn't there. They move on, finding the newly drained pool that Jason had found earlier. There's a door nearby with "Oops" written in blood on it. A smile is drawn inside of the second O. A crowbar rests in a blood trail that leads to the door. Inside of the room, we find a battered and bruised Jason. Batman kneels next to him, reaching for him, and Jason recoils, shouting for him to stay away. He seems confused, but he stands, which is weird because his hands were zip-tied, and it certainly doesn't look like Batman cut him free, or the Joker's did. Like, he looks zip-tied in that first panel, but okay, that's fine. Small detail, I guess. Just live with it. Jason stands and keeps his distance from the others. He pulls off the shattered helmet, muttering about the Red Hood becoming the Joker. The Red Hood becomes the Joker. He adds that maybe there was always more than one. More than one, and they want to make more. There was more than one, and they want to make more. Batman warily asks if Jason is all right. Jason turns on him quickly. "What do you think, Bruce? You put me on this path. You did this to me." He hurls the bloody helmet at Batman, who catches it easily. Then Jason turns away, leaning over a nearby table. They want someone who hates Batman. And Jason admits that he does hate him. For leaving him dead, for replacing him as Robin. Yeah, he hates Batman. Batgirl, Barbara, gently says his name and reaches out for him. "What?" he snaps. "What are you going to do? Arrest him? Lock him up? Then do it. Just get it over with." But Barbara rests her hand on his shoulder. He turns, a blue eye looking at her in fear and uncertainty. What does she want? She hugs him, saying that she wants to get him someplace safe. Batgirl is obviously a focus in this story as another victim of the Joker. She is a living example of how a person could suffer at his hands and come through it stronger. But this scene also demonstrates her own heart and character, while highlighting Batman's deficiencies. When the pair of them arrive, Batgirl is the one who kicks in the door. Barbara bursts into the scene with one concern: Jason. Period. Remember, the last time that she saw him, he killed someone, and as tough as Jason pretends to be, she also knows that he is a hurt kid lashing out at the man who hurt him. Maybe he does need to be punished, or maybe he needs to be stopped before he does anything else that's stupid. Maybe he needs to be stopped before he takes another step down Joker Lane. Either way, Barbara wants to help him. Batman enters this scene with a tactical concern. He wanted to sneak in, to not alert anyone who was there or spring any trap that the Joker might have laid. On the one hand, this could demonstrate that he trusts Jason to handle himself. Remember, they don't necessarily know that Jason is in trouble. But it could also indicate a certain level of ambivalence. If Jason is here and hurt, then that's because he put himself in this situation. He didn't contact them with the location. He didn't tell them to meet him there. They offered to help him, and he chose to spurn it. Batman actually admonishes Batgirl for her loud entrance, but she is the one who doesn't care now. If Jason is here, then he wasn't going to be quiet, and he did call her, seemingly asking for help. If something is wrong and he did reach out to her, then she knows that this situation is serious. After the Joker mob, Barbara is the one who is checking the bodies to see if they're Jason, but it's Batman who confirms that he isn't among them. He was looking, he just wasn't as blatantly emotional about it as she is. When they find Jason, I think it's very telling that Barbara lets Batman approach Jason first, despite her fear for him, despite her concern for him. But Jason recoils, afraid of what this intruder might do, afraid of the depths of his own hatred, and so it ends up being Batgirl who has to connect with him emotionally. After all, not only does Jason have tons of baggage in relation to Batman, but Bruce has a ton of problems opening up to people emotionally. He is a detached detective, a cool observer, and I would argue that Bruce knows that Jason hates him. This is why he doesn't press Jason to toe the line harder. It's why he gives him space and leeway. He's trying to respect Jason's hate while still being an influence in his life. To some degree, I would argue that Bruce wants to hug Jason and get him someplace safe, but his own emotional range just won't allow it, nor will the wounds between them. It's incredibly sad, and it looks like it's going to stay that way. We then move to Barbara's apartment, where Jason is sleeping in her bed. Barbara checks on him, closes the door, and tells Batman that he's finally asleep. Batman says that he needs to leave. He has leads to follow up upon. But Barbara argues that he's needed more here. Doesn't he see that Jason needs him? He nearly died tonight, and he killed a guy. Batman argues that Jason is safe. He needs to make sure that the rest of Gotham is, too. And if that doesn't sound like an emotionally stunted man dodging his emotional responsibility to the guy that he adopted as a surrogate son and then
Still swearing.
Up, I don't know what does. Saving Gotham is the reason why Batman leaves, sure, but it is also his excuse to leave. The sun is rising when Jason wakes up alone. Unsure of where he is, he starts to explore the room. He discovers Barbara's wheelchair in the closet, the old calendars of her therapy appointments, and stacks of books. Some of them are on physical recovery, some are on strength training for women, and there's even one on pain management. Jason's fingers linger over the cover to the one on pain management. Batgirl eventually returns home, finding her bed occupied only by the book. She calls out for Jason, and he responds from the bathroom. He comes out in a towel, having showered, and apologizes for looking through her things, but he thought that the book could be useful. Barbara says that it was. Then she asks if he was okay. He looks right at her, replying that he doesn't think that he has ever been okay. That clearly hits Barbara right in the heart as we get a single wordless panel of her, wide-eyed. Jason turns away, saying that he realizes that he is on the same path that they are, meaning the Jokers, but he doesn't want to be. Honestly. Does she believe him? Now, despite his back being turned away from her, Barbara looks away from him. She wants to believe. Jason asks her about the stuff that he saw in her closet. Why does she keep it all? Doesn't it hurt? And she says that it did, but with the help of her father, Bruce, and her friends and allies, she was able to emotionally recover. Then, eventually, she was able to physically recover too. Jason never got any of that. But Barbara reminds him that they all thought that he was dead. And when he finally did re-enter their lives, he had already become the Red Hood. There was this wall between them all. All of the Bat family wished that they could have helped him recover. No one has ever told Jason that. With tears in her eyes, Barbara says that she's telling him now. She takes his hands. He tears up now, looking at her. And then he kisses her. Barbara steps back. They shouldn't have done that. This isn't... She just wanted him to know that he isn't alone. He doesn't have to be alone. And then she suggests that they resume the Joker hunt. He's hurt too many people, including Jason, already. Clearly hurt by Barbara's rejection and reading the shift in the room, Jason agrees. And I won't lie, this moment loses me. There are a lot of small moments in this scene that I absolutely love. Showing Jason Barbara's past is a great way to remind him that he isn't the only person who has been damaged by the Joker. And it also serves as a reminder that he doesn't have to stay that way. Jason chooses to stay away from the Bat family and the support that they could provide him. And if you're wondering about Jason's blood family like his parents, well, depending on which continuity you choose to adhere to, their fate varies. Johns hasn't indicated what happened to them at all within this story, so I'm just gonna gloss over their absence by saying that they're out of the picture. And in any case, as I've stated, Jason does have a family available, and so, feeling lonely and hurt, and finally, some form of sympathy, Jason kisses Barbara. And thank God, Barbara immediately shuts that down. Because while I like the idea of Jason healing, and I even like Barbara being a resource who could help him along that road, it is not her responsibility to save this guy. If Jason wants to be fixed, then he has to choose to fix himself. Given that Jason chooses to remain an outsider vigilante and sometimes kill people, any relationship that he would have with Barbara would be very likely to turn toxic. She would want him to improve. He would then struggle with that and then slip into his old habits, which she would then get upset about, and then he would get angry, and then it would just get worse. I'm not surprised that Jason would reciprocate her sympathy as attraction. He is a very closed-off person emotionally, and Barbara has done nothing but attempt to reach out to him. I get it. It's the wrong interpretation, but I can see how and why he does it. But Barbara knows that this isn't what she wanted, and she lays down the line immediately. No, we are not in love, we are two broken people, and I want you to get better, but I don't want you to do it because of me. You need to do it for yourself. I kind of wish that she hadn't insisted on going back out as vigilantes, though, as it reinforces the idea that patrolling Gotham is more important than healing emotional scars. Barbara standing here telling Jason that she wants him to get better, but then she says that they need to re-enter the very kind of situation that hurt him to begin with, seems really hypocritical. And I'm not saying that that reaction doesn't make sense either. Barbara was reaching out to Jason here, sure, but she wasn't being romantic. She was not coming on to him. When he kisses her, she is surprised. Maybe she even feels bad for giving him that impression, so she chooses to shut down emotionally. She focuses on the Bat duties instead, throwing up a wall to protect herself. Batman did this when he left Jason at her place, and she does it now to overcome the sudden awkwardness. We then move to the Batcave, panning the camera over the original costumes for Batgirl and Robin, where we find Batman at his computer. 3 different video feeds show the murders that the Joker committed at the beginning of this story. 2 manila envelopes sit nearby. One of them is marked Missing, Criminals, and when he looks inside, we see a panel of the criminal Joker. The other is marked missing clowns, and we see a panel of the comedian Joker. Batman looks away to his left, where a globe is sitting, and the camera zooms in on Alaska. Then we end on a series of panels. A fire rages at Blackgate Penitentiary. Joe Chill is abducted by the comedian. With an oxygen mask still hanging around Chill's neck, the comedian puts Chill's signature flat-top hat on his head. He's making a string of bad jokes based on Chill's last name the entire time that we see this. Chill asks what he wants, clearly scared and confused. Then the comedian aims a camera at him. What does he want? He wants an answer. Did Joe Chill really kill Martha and Thomas Wayne? As book 2 out of 3, I gotta say, the structure here is weird. Like, I've talked a lot about how the small points are really well built, like the scene transitions or the way that Johns and Fabok demonstrate character traits artistically rather than expositionally, like the bones of this comic are solid. But if you were to ask me what the actual plot of this miniseries is, I would be hard-pressed to give you one. Ostensibly, this series is about 3 Jokers, right? But what does that mean? To me, that would imply explaining how there's 3 Jokers, where they came from, what their aims are, and at least set a plot into motion that Batman and his allies then have to attempt to stop. But we have no explanation for how there are multiple Jokers. They just seem to make each other. Maybe they bud like starfish, I don't know. We don't know where any of them have come from, and the closest that we've come to a plot is that they're trying to make a new Joker, and okay, if that was the main plot line, though, you'd think that would have been introduced in the first issue. The second issue would then introduce the new Joker candidate, and the third issue would be stopping them and then wrapping things up. Brutalizing Jason is a clever concept for putting him on the road to becoming a Joker, I like that, but then we immediately have Jason saved, he has shown a support network, and we have had him verbalize that he doesn't want to be a Joker. So if that was our main plot line, we wrapped that up pretty neatly already, making issue 3's point feel very vague and nebulous. It is possible that the Jokers are setting up Joe Chill as the new Joker. He certainly has history with Bruce Wayne and Batman. Plus, if that is the case, then it makes sense that they did Jason first, because that would have been done to occupy Batman's attention, allowing the Jokers to free Chill and transport him to wherever Chill is at the end of book 2. I find it hard to believe that a dying man would survive the chemical bath needed to become a Joker, so I'm particularly skeptical of Chill as a candidate, but I'm sure that the Jokers know what they're doing. I can't believe I wrote that. Emotionally, this issue was pretty solid, with strong character beats for the comedian, the Red Hood, Batgirl, and Batman. This is a fascinating group of characters all caught up together in this story. But intellectually, this issue is a lot lighter. The Joker's goal feels very vague, where there's no real weight or threat to it except for the danger that it poses to Jason Todd existentially, and he's already stated that he isn't down with being a Joker, so that danger is pointless. Plus, the Jokers are so busy and consumed with their goal that the stuff that they are really good at, like sowing chaos and destruction and destabilizing Batman's world, just isn't being done at all. And I would argue that I don't really care which Joker is the original one, or which one was the first, or whatever you want to call it. I want to know which Joker ties into which story more than anything. The last Batman story that I read before this one was the Endgame arc of Scott Snyder's run on Batman, which has a very singular take on the Joker. Like, this version cut off his own face so that he could sew his smile on permanently. He also kept the sides of his head shaved with that Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender look going on. Was one of these Jokers that Joker? Is the comedian Joker actually the Joker from The Killing Joke? Because if so, what has he been up to for the past, 30 years? And I know that comics have a weird relationship with time, so 30 years hasn't actually passed in continuity, but the question remains, what happened to him at the end of that graphic novel? And if the criminal really was the first Joker, and he was a crime boss of Gotham City, then where the hell has he been? Like, proposing that there are 3 Jokers is a groundbreaking idea, and it's a cool concept, but we aren't really seeing any of those inherent ideas that come with it being explored, and that's beginning to frustrate me a little bit. I'm a pot boiling under the surface. Next week, we begin the final leg of our journey. The Jokers have Joe Chill, and our heroes don't even know it. They've been so caught up in dealing with each other's baggage. Will we see the birth of a new kind of Joker? Can Bruce and Barbara reach some kind of peace with Jason? Or will Jason betray them both, but save Gotham another clown infestation? Join me in a week for Comic Book Breakdown episode 15.4, Batman 3 Jokers, Back to the Beginning.
Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.